Ethan Cole lived alone in a small house on the edge of a colony city called New Terra. His house was simple, his job at the supply docks was tiring, and his life felt the same every day. He often thought his life was too quiet, too empty. He had no family nearby and very few friends. Most evenings he came home, ate quickly, and went straight to bed. One night, after another long day of moving crates at the docks, Ethan sat at his table and looked around at his messy home. Dishes were piled up in the sink, dust covered the corners, and clothes lay in untidy heaps on the floor. He sighed. "I need help," he said to himself. On his tablet screen, he saw an advertisement for a new type of robot maid. It was cheap, reliable, and promised to handle cleaning, cooking, and daily chores. The company even offered quick delivery to colony worlds like his. Ethan thought for a while, then pressed the order button. "Why not? It's just a machine. It'll make life easier," he muttered. 2 weeks passed. Ethan almost forgot about the order as he continued his routine. Then one evening, just as the sun dipped behind the colony walls, a loud hum filled the air outside his house. A delivery pod, silver and round, landed on the dirt road near his door. Ethan stepped outside and saw the pod open with a hiss. He expected to see a shiny robot stepping out. Instead, what he saw froze him in place. Inside the pod sat a girl, not a robot, not a machine, but a real, living girl. Her skin had a faint silver-blue glow. Her eyes were wide and bright like polished gems, and her dark hair fell around her shoulders in tangled strands. She looked weak, trembling, and her thin clothes were nothing like human styles. Ethan blinked, rubbed his eyes, and whispered, "This has to be a mistake." The girl looked up at him. Her lips moved, but her words were broken, strange, and not quite human. Please. No. Back. Cage." Ethan stepped closer. She flinched, pressing herself against the inside wall of the pod like a cornered animal. Her eyes showed fear. I didn't order this," Ethan said out loud, though no one was there to answer. His heart beat faster. What kind of company would send a person instead of a machine? The pod's screen blinked once, then shut down. The delivery drone lifted off and vanished into the sky, leaving Ethan alone with the girl. For a long moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Ethan knew he could report this to the colony office. He could call security and hand her over. But something, in the girl's shaking hands and desperate eyes, stopped him. She wasn't some package. She was alive. Finally, Ethan reached out his hand slowly. "Hey, I'm not going to hurt you," he said in a calm voice. The girl stared at his hand, confused but didn't move. Ethan lowered his hand and sighed. "Okay, fine. You don't trust me yet, but you can't stay in that pod." He gently helped her step out. She stumbled, nearly falling, but Ethan caught her arm. She felt warm, alive. Definitely not a robot. Inside, the house. Ethan gave her a seat and a glass of water. She touched the glass carefully as if it was a strange object she had never seen before. When she tasted the water, her shoulders relaxed a little. "What's your name?" Ethan asked softly. The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Lyra." Ethan nodded slowly. "Lyra. Okay, I'm Ethan." Her eyes studied his face as if she was trying to read if he was friend or foe. For now, she didn't run, and that was enough. That night, Ethan lay awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling. His house was no longer quiet, no longer empty. In the next room, an alien girl was resting under his roof. He had no idea where she came from or why she had been sent in place of a robot maid, but deep inside, he felt one thing very clearly. His life had just changed forever. The next morning, Ethan woke up earlier than usual. The sun was rising over the colony, casting orange light through his window. For a moment, he almost forgot what had happened the night before. Then he heard a soft sound from the other room. He sat up quickly. Right. The girl. Ethan stepped into the small kitchen and saw her sitting at the table. She was staring at a spoon. turning it around in her fingers like it was a piece of strange art. Her silver-blue skin glowed faintly in the morning light. She looked up when she noticed him. Her eyes widened as if she thought he might chase her out. Ethan raised his hands gently. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe here." The girl, Lyra, didn't reply. She tilted her head as if trying to understand his words. Then she pointed at the spoon. "Shiny. Cold." Ethan blinked. Her voice was soft and unsure, but he understood her. She was learning. Slowly. "Yes," Ethan said, nodding. "That's a spoon." He picked up another spoon from the counter and showed it to her. "Spoon," Lyra repeated carefully. "Poon." A small smile tugged at Ethan's lips. She was trying. She wasn't just some lost being, she was intelligent, curious. He made her some food, simple bread and fruit, and placed it in front of her. At first, she sniffed it like she wasn't sure if it was safe. Then she took a cautious bite. Her eyes lit up and she ate quickly, almost desperately. "You were hungry," Ethan said softly. Lyra looked up, crumbs on her lips, and nodded once. "Hungry." Ethan frowned. Whoever had sent her here clearly hadn't cared for her properly. She looked thin, her clothes were torn, and she had small marks on her wrists like she had been tied or locked up. He sat across from her. "Lyra," he said gently, pointing to himself. "Ethan." She watched him, then said, "Ethan." He smiled again. "Good. Ethan." He pointed at her. "Lyra." Her lips curved into the smallest smile. "Lyra." It wasn't much, but it was progress. Later that day, Ethan thought about calling the delivery company to ask about the mistake. But each time he looked at Lyra, sitting quietly and touching random objects with wide eyes, he hesitated. What if they didn't see her as a person? What if they came to take her away like she was just cargo? When his communicator buzzed with a message from the company asking if he had received his order, Ethan's chest tightened. He typed back quickly, "No delivery yet, still waiting." Then he turned the device off. He leaned back in his chair and muttered, "What am I getting myself into?" As the days passed, Lyra stayed with him. At first, she was shy and silent, watching his every move. But slowly, she began to copy him. When he cleaned the table, she tried to do the same. When he said words like cup, chair, or door, she repeated them, learning piece by piece. One evening, Ethan found her standing by the window, staring at the sky. Her eyes were filled with longing. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. Lyra hesitated, then whispered, "Home." Ethan's chest ached. "Where is your home, Lyra?" She struggled with words, making short, broken sentences. "Far at stars and fire, gone." Her voice shook and she hugged herself tightly. Ethan understood. Her home was gone, destroyed somehow. Maybe in war. Maybe by something worse. She had no one left. He stepped closer, careful not to scare her. "You're safe here now," he said softly. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining, but she didn't reply. She turned back to the sky. One night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat at his table with a cup of tea, thinking. His life had changed so quickly. Just days ago, he was a lonely man waiting for a machine to clean his house. Now, an alien girl was under his roof, depending on him. He knew it wasn't safe. If the wrong people found out, Lyra might be taken. Maybe sold, maybe locked up. The marks on her wrists made him suspect she had already suffered enough. Ethan clenched his fists. "I can't let that happen again." In the other room, Lyra stirred in her sleep. For a moment, Ethan heard her mumble something in her own language, a soft sound filled with pain. It broke his heart. The next morning, Ethan made a plan. If Lyra was going to stay with him, she needed to understand more words, more human customs. She couldn't remain helpless forever. He began teaching her small things each day. This is bread. This is water. This is light. She repeated them, sometimes struggling, sometimes laughing at herself when she got the sounds wrong. Bit by bit. Her fear faded. She even began to smile at Ethan when she managed to say something correctly. One day after he showed her how to turn on the small kitchen light, she clapped her hands in excitement and said clearly, "Light!" Ethan laughed. "Yes, Light, you're getting good at this." Lyra beamed with pride, and for the first time, Ethan saw true joy in her eyes. That night, Ethan sat on his bed and thought about everything again. He had lied to the company. He was hiding someone the colony might consider illegal. He didn't know what dangers were waiting if anyone found out. But when he thought of Lyra's smile, he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't treat her like a package. She was a person. She deserved a chance to live. His quiet, empty life was over. Now he had a secret and a responsibility. And though he didn't admit it out loud yet, he also felt something else. For the first time in years, he wasn't lonely. Days turned into a week, and life in Ethan's small house began to feel normal in its own strange way. Lyra was learning quickly. She could now say simple sentences like, "I hungry," or "I cold," and she could carry plates and cups without spilling. Her bright eyes watched Ethan constantly, soaking in every small action. But even as their bond grew, a shadow hung over their lives. Ethan could not forget the marks on Lyra's wrists, the way she flinched at sudden movements, or the words she had whispered about her home. Someone had hurt her before, and that someone might be looking for her now. One afternoon, Ethan sat at the table reviewing colony news on his tablet. He noticed a small bulletin flashing at the edge of the screen. Missing alien life forms. Reported. Citizens are urged to report unknown or illegal life forms immediately. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at Lyra, who was quietly stacking dishes she had washed. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra looked up, her eyes wide. "Ethan." "Hide?" she whispered. "Yes," he said quickly. "We have to be careful." From that moment, their routine changed. Ethan kept the blinds drawn and the door locked at all times. Lyra stayed close to him, learning quickly that loud noises or strangers were dangerous. As the days passed, Ethan began to learn more about Lyra's past. She could not remember everything, but small details slipped out in her broken sentences. "Stars, fire, gone," she said one evening, staring at the ceiling. "What happened to your home, Lyra?" Ethan asked softly. "Boom. Big. Many die," she whispered. Tears formed in her glowing eyes. Alone." Ethan's chest tightened. Her entire world had been destroyed. Her people, her home, her family, gone. And she had been captured and sold, sent on a ship with no care for her life, until she ended up in his backyard. He wanted to cry, but instead he clenched his fists. "I'll protect you," he said quietly, almost to himself. Lyra looked up at him. Protect?" "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "I protect you. No one will hurt you again." She leaned slightly toward him, as if she understood the sincerity. In his words, but the danger was real. One morning, a drone hovered near Ethan's house. It scanned the streets, shining bright lights over every doorway and window. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her to the back room, covering her with a blanket. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. Lyra's hands trembled, but she nodded. Ethan peeked through the blinds. The drone scanned the area, then moved on. For a moment, they both held their breath. "Too close," Ethan muttered. "We need a plan. We can't just hide forever." Lyra didn't speak. She simply clutched his hand. Her trust in him was growing faster than her knowledge of words. She had no one else. That night, Ethan thought about what to do. The colony, authorities would report any unknown alien as illegal. And the company that sent the robot maid, he had lied to them about the delivery. If they discovered Lyra, They might alert the authorities or worse. He realized he had two choices: turn her in or risk everything to protect her. His chest tightened. He had never broken the rules before, never defied the law, but looking at her sleeping peacefully in the corner, he knew what he had to do. "I can't let them take you," he whispered. Lyra stirred in her sleep, muttering something in her language. Ethan didn't understand, but the sound was soft and sad. He sat beside her thinking, she's not just an alien, she's a life, and I can't give up on her. Over the next few days, Ethan focused on teaching her more. He gave her simple chores like sweeping the floor, folding clothes, and organizing utensils. Lyra struggled at first, but always tried her best. One evening, while teaching her how to wash dishes properly, she paused and asked something surprising. "Ethan, why? Help me." Ethan froze. He looked at her glowing eyes, so full of genuine curiosity. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said finally. "No one should be alone or hurt like that." "You're important." Lyra's small lips curved into a faint smile. "Important. She paused, searching for the word. "I belong?" "Yes," Ethan said softly. "You belong here. With me." Her eyes sparkled with something Ethan had never seen in another human. Gratitude, trust, maybe even hope. But peace was fragile. The company that was supposed to deliver the robot maid contacted him again, asking for confirmation of the delivery. Ethan answered carefully, claiming he had not received anything. But he could not ignore the possibility that someone else might trace Lyra back to him. One night, as he checked the perimeter of his house, he noticed footprints in the dirt leading from the main road. They weren't human. They were small, delicate, almost like Lyra's. But someone had followed her. Ethan's pulse quickened. He realized that hiding her wasn't enough. He needed a plan to protect her if anyone came looking. Lyra noticed his tension. "Ethan, scared?" "Yes," he admitted. "I'm scared. But we can face it together." She nodded, gripping his hand tightly. Even though her words were few, her actions spoke volumes. She trusted him completely. That night, Ethan sat at his table making a list of possibilities. He could try to move her to another city, disguise her, or contact someone he trusted to help. Each option carried risks, but he knew he could not return her to the authorities. Not after everything she had been through. He looked toward Lyra, sleeping under the small blanket he had given her. Her chest rose and fell slowly, her glowing skin dimming in the soft light. "I'll protect you, Lyra," he whispered, "no matter what." For the first time in his life, Ethan felt a purpose stronger than loneliness, stronger than routine, stronger than fear. And though danger was near, he knew one truth. He would not fail her. Because humanity, he realized, was not about machines, laws, or rules. It was about compassion, courage, and protecting life. And he would prove that, even if it cost everything. Ethan woke early that morning, his mind restless. The colony's morning light streamed through the blinds, but he hardly noticed. His thoughts were on Lyra. Though she had begun to feel at home, he knew danger still lingered. Authorities were scanning the streets, and the company that had sent the robot maid might eventually track them down. In the kitchen, Lyra was already awake. She was carefully sweeping the floor, humming a soft musical tune. Ethan paused, watching her. She wasn't just learning about human life, she was adapting, even adding her own touches. "Good morning, Lyra," he said, forcing a smile. She looked up, eyes glowing faintly, and returned the smile. "Ethan, morning." He handed her a cup of water. "Drink this before breakfast." Lyra nodded, sipping carefully. Ethan noticed her growing confidence in small things, carrying objects, speaking simple sentences, even moving quickly without hesitation. He couldn't help but feel proud of her. But pride was mixed with worry. She was still young, fragile in many ways, and outsiders would see her as illegal. He couldn't let that happen. Later that day, a soft knock came at the door. Ethan froze. He didn't expect anyone. "Stay here," he whispered to Lyra, guiding her quietly to the back room. He peeked through the curtain. Two uniformed delivery inspectors stood on the doorstep, looking official and polite. "Good morning, sir," one said. "We are checking recent shipments for confirmation. May we see your delivery record?" Ethan's mind raced. If they saw Lyra, questions would follow, and answers he couldn't give. "Of course," he said, keeping his tone calm. "I'll show you the tablet." He led them inside and swiped through the delivery records. "Here," he said. "I've received everything except the last order. It hasn't arrived yet." The inspectors studied the screen, then nodded. "Thank you. We'll check back later." As they left, Ethan exhaled slowly. His heart pounded. They hadn't seen Lyra, but their visit was a warning. He needed a long-term plan. Over the next few days, Ethan worked to teach Lyra more about the human world. She learned to cook simple meals, clean efficiently, and speak short sentences. But she also began asking deeper questions. "Ethan, why humans care?" He paused. He wasn't sure how to answer. "Because we choose to," he said finally. "We can be selfish, yes, but we can also help. We can care for each other and for life." Lyra tilted her head, thinking. "Care? For life?" "Yes," Ethan said. "Life is important, not just human life, but all life. That's why I'm helping you, because you're alive. You matter." For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then in a quiet voice, she said, "Humans. Strong." Ethan's chest tightened. "We try to be." Lyra smiled faintly, and for the first time she reached out and placed a small hand over his. Her skin was soft and warm. The gesture was simple, but it spoke volumes. That evening, Ethan and Lyra sat together in the small backyard. The sky was dark, filled with stars. Lyra had never seen them so clearly before. Stars. "Many," she whispered. "Like home." Ethan felt a pang in his heart. She still remembered the home she had lost. "I know, Lyra," he said softly. "But for now, we have each other." She looked at him, eyes shining. "Together. Safe?" "Yes. Safe," Ethan said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Suddenly, a faint hum echoed from above. Ethan's eyes darted to the sky. Another drone passed silently over the colony, scanning for any illegal activity. His pulse quickened. "Lyra." "Inside," he whispered urgently. She obeyed immediately, running to the house. Ethan quickly drew the blinds and checked every entrance. The drone moved on, but the tension lingered. He realized then that hiding her was only temporary. He couldn't shield her forever. The next day, Ethan began planning a more permanent solution. He knew Lyra could survive in the human world, but she needed protection. Ethan had thought the worst was over. Lyra was learning, adapting, and slowly feeling at home in his house. But the quiet life he imagined was only temporary. It began on a rainy afternoon. The colony streets were slick with water, and the hum of distant drones filled the air. Ethan and Lyra were inside, practicing simple words and gestures. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed at the door. Ethan froze. Lyra turned toward the sound, her eyes wide. "Ethan, danger?" she whispered. "Yes," he said, moving quickly to guide her to the back room. "Stay quiet." Peeking through the blinds, Ethan saw two men in dark coats standing at the doorstep. They didn't look like delivery inspectors or officials. These were the traffickers he had feared. They had tracked Lyra. Ethan's mind raced. There was no way they could take her if he stayed inside. He needed a plan, fast. "Lyra," he whispered, "we're leaving. Now." Her small hands gripped his tightly. "Leave. Safe?" "Yes, I promise," he said, helping her out the back door into the narrow alley behind his house. The rain drenched them instantly, but Ethan ignored it. He had to keep moving. The streets were slick. the neon lights reflecting off puddles. Every shadow seemed like it could hide another pursuer. The traffickers followed quickly, shouting and running after them. Ethan glanced at Lyra. She was small but surprisingly fast, moving nimbly beside him. She wasn't a robot. She wasn't built for this, but instinct and fear made her quick. They turned down narrow side streets, ducking behind crates and industrial machines. Ethan felt his lungs burn, but he refused to stop. Almost there, he panted, pointing toward a small maintenance tunnel he had discovered weeks earlier. It led under the colony, a maze few people used. "Tunnel?" Lyra asked, uncertainty in her voice. "Trust me," Ethan said firmly. "We'll be safe inside." She nodded and followed without hesitation. The tunnel was dark and cold. Water dripped from the ceiling and the air smelled of metal and oil. Ethan held Lyra close, moving carefully over the uneven ground. Behind them, they could hear the muffled shouts of the traffickers trying to follow. Ethan stopped at a junction. "We split up," he whispered. "You go left. I'll go right. Then meet at the old storage room." Lyra shook her head. "No, together," she said firmly. Ethan smiled despite the fear. "You're right. Together." They continued down the left path, keeping close to the walls. Every step was tense. The echo of their pursuers grew fainter, but Ethan knew it was only temporary. Finally, they reached a small abandoned storage room deep in the tunnel system. Ethan closed the door quietly and let Lyra sit on an old crate. Her chest heaved from the running, but her eyes sparkled with determination. "You did great, Lyra," he said softly. "I'm proud of you." She looked up, her glowing eyes meeting. "I help?" "Yes," Ethan said. "You helped me too. You're strong, stronger than you think." They stayed in the room for a few minutes, catching their breath. Outside, the sound of footsteps echoed, then faded. Ethan knew it was only a matter of time before they were discovered again. "We can't stay here forever," he said finally. "We need to find somewhere safe, somewhere no one will look for us." Lyra nodded. "Safe, hide, home?" "Yes," Ethan said. "We'll find a safe place, somewhere we can start over." Over the next hour, they navigated the tunnels carefully, avoiding the main colony pathways. Ethan's knowledge of the hidden passages was their only advantage. Lyra kept close, learning quickly how to move silently, how to hide behind shadows, and how to stay calm even when fear threatened to overwhelm her. "You smart," Ethan said, impressed. Lyra blushed slightly. "I try," she whispered. They emerged from the tunnel near the outskirts of the colony, where old abandoned buildings stood in silence. Rain pattered on the broken roofs and wind blew through the empty streets. It wasn't comfortable or warm, but it was safe, for now. Ethan led Lyra to a small building, barred windows long broken, and pushed the door open. Inside, they found a few crates and old furniture. It wasn't much, but it was dry. "This will be our hideout for the night," Ethan said. "We rest, eat, and plan our next move." Lyra nodded, settling on a crate. "Safe, thank you." Ethan smiled. "No, thank you. You taught me something important today, what it means to protect someone, and to be brave." Her glowing eyes widened. "Brave, together?" "Yes," Ethan said, "always together." As night fell, Ethan kept watch while Lyra slept. He thought about the days ahead. They couldn't stay in the hideout forever, but they also couldn't return home. They needed allies, people who believed in doing what was right. Ethan felt a mix of fear and determination. Every step he took to protect Lyra was risky, but he knew it was the right choice. And as he watched her sleep, he realized something. Life wasn't about avoiding danger. It was about facing it to protect those who mattered. Lyra stirred slightly in her sleep and muttered, "Ethan, together." "Yes," he whispered back, placing a hand gently on hers. "Together." Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the colony streets clean. But Ethan knew the chase was far from over. Traffickers would not give up, and the authorities might still come. Yet for the first time, he didn't feel alone. He had Lyra. She had him. And together, they would face whatever dangers came next. Because sometimes being human meant risking everything for someone else. And sometimes it meant discovering that courage and compassion were stronger than any fear. The next morning, Ethan and Lyra stayed hidden in their small, abandoned hideout. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets outside slick and shining under the weak sunlight. Ethan kept glancing toward the colony, wondering if the traffickers or authorities had discovered their trail. "We need a plan," he whispered, crouching beside Lyra. "We can't stay hidden forever." Lyra's eyes followed him closely. She had grown stronger over the past days, learning words, moving carefully, and trusting him completely. "Plan safe?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "We'll go to someone who can help us, someone who believes in doing what's right." He thought of his friend in the colony council, a person who understood justice and compassion, someone willing to fight for the innocent. That contact could protect Lyra legally and safely. They moved cautiously through the streets, staying in shadows and avoiding the main roads. Lyra's small hand fit tightly in Ethan's. He noticed how quickly she had adapted. She was alert, careful, and even brave. "Ethan, fast?" she asked as they ducked behind a crate to hide from a patrol drone. "Yes," he said, smiling. "You're fast too. You've learned well." Lyra's lips curved in a small smile, and Ethan felt a surge of pride. Despite her past, despite everything she had endured, she was strong. Stronger than he could have imagined. They reached the colony council building after hours of careful travel. The streets were mostly empty, and Ethan kept a close watch for anyone suspicious. Finally, they arrived at the entrance and Ethan tapped the communication panel. "Hello?" he said to the voice on the other side. "I have someone who needs help. Please. It's urgent." After a tense moment, the door slid open. His friend from the council appeared, eyes widening at the sight of Lyra. "Is this—" "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "Her name is Lyra. She's alive, and she's been through enough. Please help us protect her." The friend nodded quickly. "Come inside. We'll make sure she's safe." Inside, Lyra's fear slowly faded. She glanced around the council office, seeing humans who spoke gently, smiled warmly, and treated her like a person, not cargo. Ethan watched her relax and felt relief wash over him. "Thank you," he whispered, kneeling beside her. "You'll be safe now." Lyra's small hand rested on his arm. "Safe, Ethan?" "Yes," he said softly. "Forever safe." Later, Ethan explained everything to the council. He told them about the delivery mistake, the traffickers, and the danger Lyra had faced. The council listened carefully, taking notes and asking questions. When he finished, one of the council members nodded. "We will grant her asylum. She is not property. She is life, and she deserves protection." Ethan exhaled slowly. The weight of fear that had pressed on him for days lifted slightly. They had won a temporary victory, but he knew there could still be challenges ahead. That evening, Ethan and Lyra walked together through the colony gardens near the council building. The air smelled fresh after the rain. Lyra marveled at the plants, touching the leaves and flowers carefully. "Plants? Alive?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "Like you. We take care of them. We take care of each other." Lyra looked at him, her eyes wide. "Take care, Ethan?" "Yes," he said, smiling. "That's what humans do. We care. We protect. And sometimes we fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." Lyra nodded slowly, absorbing the words. She had seen humanity at its worst, but now she also saw it at its best. Ethan's courage, compassion, and determination had shown her what it meant to trust and belong. The following days passed peacefully. Lyra received a small place in the colony's care program. Ethan visited her often, bringing simple meals, helping her practice words and teaching her about the human world. She continued learning rapidly, always curious, always smiling. Ethan found himself changed too. He had come home expecting a machine to clean his house. Instead, he had found a friend, a companion, and a reminder of what it meant to live with purpose. One evening, as the twin suns set over New Terra, Lyra turned to Ethan. "Ethan, happy?" He paused, looking at her glowing eyes and the soft curve of her smile. "Yes," he said finally. "I'm happy. More than I've been in years. You taught me something important.